All right, it is week 4 of the Houston High School Huddle. We are talking week 4 action. My man Matt Stepp's with us. He just spent some time in Houston, came back. Did you have a glorious time down there for some games, or what happened?
I did. Now, my Thursday night game was not super competitive. College Park put it on Conroe.
But yeah, you learned something about College Park, though. What? You learned that they're not to be messed with, right?
That defense, those two D tackles, they are problems. So Kyle Coates is a good ball club there at College Park. I think they're going to be I think they might be the second best team in 13-6A. They are really, really good. So Conroe's got a good offense, has got some work to do, but defensively they were solid. They just were on the field too long. Their offense just didn't do anything in the game and just got worn down. And then Friday night, I saw the beautiful new stadium at LaPorte. It is as advertised. It is awesome. Very cool stadium. Love the setup. Love how they built it. They had a lot of. It's not too high. It's very the bleachers are low, so it's a good stadium. LaPorte's got a good team, a lot of talent. And Sean Simon, unbelievable running back. He's
pretty good, isn't he?
Yeah, LaPorte's defense struggled though. P&G was super efficient on 3rd and 4th downs and went in there and just they handled LaPorte. I mean, they really did a good job offensively. Their defense came up with enough stops to get the job done. But you know, if I'm a LaPorte fan, I'm not too concerned. I mean, they were 0-3 last year at this point.
Yeah,
they're 2-1. Kevin Bernithi will have those guys going. You know, they got some things to clean up. P&G is really good. I know they're not a Houston area team, but they are outstanding.
Right. Yeah, they play Houston area team, so we'll keep an eye on them for sure. Mm-hmm. You talked about some of these games where there's been some movement. By the way, there's a coaches poll we do. One of our coaches, I'm not going to name him, obviously, he's had some hard times, so he just gave up. He gave up ranking teams. That's okay. I understand it. You got hard times. You don't want to do it no more. So he just gave up on me. Haven't heard from him, but that's all right.
Come on, man. You can't rank the teams when you're doing good and then not rank them when you start losing. If to me, don't quit, coach. Come on now. Like keep
I'm
it
just
up.
I'm gonna put it on the fact that maybe his charger didn't work and his phone got wet and the texts don't come through. Let's just put it at that at the moment. But with movement, but we saw Bridgeland take out of drops. Bridgeland took a heck of a drop because they could only score 3 against Ridge Point. They dropped from 7 to 13 in the poll. Atascocita, which I really want to talk to you about because I'm sure you may have made a call or two. They dropped to 4, but Carday Mack didn't even play in that game. Is there anything behind that?
No, I haven't heard anything. I mean, I'm assuming he just got a little banged up and held him out for precautionary reasons. He's such an important piece to what Atascocita does. You know, you want him to be healthy going into district play. So my guess is he got a little nicked up and they're just, get him right for district. I'm not too concerned. I mean, Westlake's a really good team. And, so I'm not super, Atascocita was in there. We dropped him in the state rankings just because – if you ask me my personal opinion, does Atascocita beat Westlake with a healthy Carday Mack? Probably. I think they will. But we don't know that. All we know is what happened on Friday was Westlake beat them. So what we know, we have to rank based off what we know. So you drop them behind Westlake in the state rankings. It'll work itself out. But
Atascocita had that second half lead and lost that thing too. But
I'm
not like the
concerned.
offense struggled too much.
Yeah, I mean, Atascocita is going to play Summer Creek and North Shore and Kingwood and CE King, so they'll have plenty of chances to bolster that resume for sure.
It's funny you bring that up because I was going to talk about Goose Creek Memorial because they just can't stop scoring a lot of points. But those 5 teams that you just mentioned, that's who they're running into as soon as this bye week's over.
Yeah.
But they should enjoy those 3-0. That 3-0 start should be something they should hang their hat on for sure.
They should. Jamon Cleveland's done a good job there. Enjoy this week. You're 3-0. You scored 79 and 68 the last 2 weeks. Now the next, you get a bye week, and then you got Kingwood, CE King, North Shore, and Summer Creek all in a row, 4 straight weeks.
Right.
Good luck.
That's why I'm glad they had the bye week. So they got
extra week to enjoy being 3-0, man. Go get you something to eat in town. The whole town loves you right now. And enjoy being 3-0.
And then you talk about movement, man. There's both Klein and Klein Collins went flying up the polls. They're up at 8 and 9.
Yeah.
And we had College Park, as you talked about, they went from 20 to 16. So some of these teams are showing. Well, I tell you what, we finally got a camera out of the Klein game. And I know we talk about this all the time. You talk about how they go for it every 4th down, go for 2. They had a weight set on the sidelines, and I don't know what happened to get him to do it, but one of the coaches ran over, was lifting weights, and the whole place is crazy over there now. They're finding a little bit of success. We got players leading the band. We got them out there lifting weights on the sideline. It's awesome over there.
Listen, man, Kadudi, that dude is entertaining to say the least. So he's great for guys like us. He's always there's always something up his sleeve, and I think he's one of those guys that you love to play for but hate to play against, and probably love to coach with and hate to coach against.
Right.
You want him on your side, and if he's not on your side, you just can't stand the guy.
Right.
So it's great for guys like us. He's entertaining, and his football team is really good. I told Tepper today that we're starting, now next week we're going to know for sure. I believe next week is Klein and Klein Collins.
Yes.
And so that's 5, yeah. So if they win that one, I think they're going to start talking about state rankings at that point. Like this is
Collins is playing some heck of a ball too. I mean, that was
a great win for them over Tom Ball. Great
on
win
the road over there. Yeah,
Tom Ball's a really good football team, so it'll be interesting. So yeah, Klein good football in Klein ISD this year.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk 15-6A in this podcast in a little bit later, but we got bye weeks for some of these districts in 6A. 23-6A, I'm harboring on because there's like 5 teams in our top 20. You just mentioned all 5. They all get a little week off before they start battling each other. But 14 and 17, we got to kind of try to figure out. There's a lot of districts that we have to kind of try to figure out here in 6A.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get right once the bye's over because they're going to start playing each other. But to go out there and North Shore's a tough team, but to do nothing against them like Westfield did, and they're supposed to be at least 1-2 in 14-6A. That doesn't really bode well for 14-6A at all.
No, we've talked about 14-6A and their struggles. I mean, Aldine Nimitz got beat by Beaumont United 38-14.
Yeah,
it's 14-6A. I mean, I don't think you'll if you're a fan of a team in 14-6A, don't make plans. Your Thanksgiving will be free.
Thanksgiving's good
unless you're watching basketball. I just don't see anybody getting out of the first round in 14-6A. The story in 17-6A, man. How about Brooks Hack and Houston Memorial, man? Those guys, big win over Cy Ranch. Really big win for them. Beat first year head coach. I had high hopes for Cy Ranch, and right now they're among, to me, the bigger disappointments in the Houston. This is not 17-6A, but they're kind of one of the bigger disappointments in the Houston area right now, off to a 1-2 start. But shout out to Houston Memorial and Brooks Hack's ball club. They're off to a 2-1 start, looking good. Stratford's 0-3, tough schedule, but I expected a little bit more from them. And Cy Fair off to a good start. They lost to Dickinson last week. They gave Dickinson a good run. That was a good ball game.
There's a momentum switch in that game.
Yeah.
They got a pick 6 in the second half, and everything went downhill after that. But they had them there for a while.
Yeah, Falls is 1-2. But they played a little bit tougher schedule also. I think that they played that game against Clear Falls last week was a great ball game. So
holy cow, we were lucky we had a camera out there for that.
Yeah, so it's 17-6A. I'd say right now Stratford is the one. This 0-3. I think they'll be fine once district starts, but this is kind of off to a slow start right now.
Okay, well let's get into some games because it's actually our game of the week. The Woodlands at Willis. We're debating between that one and Bay City and Sealy. We went with this one because. Willis has held that crown for, 2 years now, and the Woodlands won it. They have 20 of those crowns in their shells, and they want one more. So, is this going to be? How competitive is this going to be? And maybe just because it's at Willis, it'll be a little more competitive than some might think. What do you feel?
Yeah, I definitely think the Woodlands has this one circled. For 2 years now, they've fallen short to Willis, and there's some. My guess is there's probably a little chippiness going on. There's a couple of kids from Woodlands that tried to transfer to Willis this offseason, and they were ruled ineligible. So that kind of adds a little bit to it, and Willis is kind of the upstart, and they've gotten the better of the Woodlands the last 2 years. But I think Willis is just a little too young this year. They've got Jermaine Bishop, but a lot of the pieces around him are sophomores, even freshmen. I mean, they're DJ Lagway's brothers over there at Willis playing corner as a sophomore. They got Lincoln Frazier, very talented quarterback. He's just a freshman.
Right.
And he looked good last week. They whooped up on I think Oak Ridge. Or the Caney Creek. Sorry, Caney Creek 49-0. But it's a different level of competition now with the Woodlands. I just feel like the Woodlands. This is a senior laden ball club. Jack Dalton at quarterback, obviously. that veteran secondary. That's the key is the Woodlands secondary. They've got so many, Willis likes to throw it around and spread you out. And I just don't know if they're going to be able to hurt the Woodlands like they can because of the Woodlands' ability in the secondary. So I think the senior leadership for the Highlanders pays off here in that veteran at quarterback and Jack Dalton.
Well, in another 13-6A game, Oak Ridge against College Park, you got to see College Park. They're in a stretch here where they're playing the meaty middle of 13-6A, right? So they took out Conroe, they got Oak Ridge, they got Grand Oaks, they got Willis, all 4 in a row before that Woodlands game, before we can start saying, oh, this one could be for first place, they got to get through the gauntlet.
Take care of business, yeah. But I think with your College Park, you've got their defensive line up front with Jordan Grant and R.J. Wims. Those two dudes are nasty. 2 sophomores, so they're going to be around for a couple more years for College Park. The safety Markel Beltran had a punt return for a touchdown. He's just a playmaker. He can do it all. I think their quarterback, Camden Hughes, has been really good. They've got Julian Cromartie at wide receiver, a move in from San Diego, son of Antonio, one of Antonio Cromartie's children.
Okay,
is there one of them? He's one of a large family, but he's a player. He's got big time offers. He's a big long receiver on the outside, and Conroe was double teaming him, and just they would not let him beat them. So the running back Duke Stevens and the tight end Brett Snodgrass just went off against Conroe. Yeah. And so they got a lot of weapons. And so you can't just focus on Cromartie because other guys can beat you. So, Oak Ridge is a solid team, and the new head coach there is doing a good job in his first year coming over. I think he came over from Magnolia, doing a good job there, but they don't have the firepower to keep up with College Park. I like the Cavaliers in this game to go to 5-0. Kyle Coates doing a heck of a job there.
Unbelievable. I hate it when you say 5-0 because that means we're at the halfway mark. So I'll just say undefeated, so I don't have to start.
Actually, I'm sorry, that'd be 4-0.
4-0. Yeah, 4-0. Yeah, that's right.
Getting ahead of ourselves here.
Exactly. All right, 15-6A. Man, that like we talked about, this district is crazy. There's a lot of solid squads in here, and this one, the winner of this game's not looking great for the playoffs, but the loser's damn near eliminated. Am I right?
Yes, I think if the loser of this game is in big trouble.
Elimination game, right?
Big trouble. You're going to have to win some games you shouldn't win and climb out of a hole here, especially if you're Oak. If you're Kane, maybe, you can climb out of it because you still have head-to-head games against Collins and Tomball and Magnolia. Maybe you can climb out of it. But Oak, if they lose, they're going to have losses to Magnolia and Kane, and they still have to play Collins and Klein High.
Yeah.
So really, and Tomball, who probably might be the top 3 teams in the district. So, Oak, I was encouraged by Oak playing Magnolia as tough as they did, only losing by 7. I thought they played them tough. The offense is struggling a little bit because everybody's keying on Micah Rhodes, and there's not a lot else around him right now. There's a lot of youth that is really young. So that's probably the biggest thing for Kane. I think it's just the defense. So they're scoring points. It's not like Kane is not scoring. I mean, they've scored 48, 21, and 34 in 3 games, but they just have struggled. I mean, Klein put up 50 in the first half. They had a 50 burger in the first half. They could have. I mean, they kind of called off the dogs in the second half. And that's not saying anything with Kane. I'm sure Kane made some adjustments, but you giving up 50 points in the half, and they ended up even Klein slowed it down and still scored 21 in the second half. So the defense is just not there right now. I think I'm going to take Oak.
Okay, I probably agree with you on that one. All I got to do is kind of get to 28. If you get 28, it's probably 35 against Kane the way they're playing these days.
Yeah, they're struggling. Yeah, the defense is struggling. It's a tough
game. I mean, there's a lot of good games this week. Up at Magnolia, Tomball Memorial, who a lot of people aren't talking about. They're still undefeated. They're playing Magnolia. Tell me what you think about this one.
Yeah, I think Coach Jodell Carey has done a great job this year there at Tomball Memorial, kind of under the radar. They're 2-0, so
they've had their bye.
They've already had their bye, so they've had 2 weeks to prepare for Magnolia. So that's an edge if you're a Tomball Memorial fan. The problem for Tomball Memorial is the schedule. Humble's decent. Cy Creek is still struggling. So you haven't really played the cream of the crop here. Magnolia comes in 3-0. Nice win over College Station. A couple of 5A wins to open non-district, but then they get a nice win over Klein Oak last week. So, in Magnolia, I lean to the Bulldogs in this one, but then, Magnolia is about to jump in. They're going to start jumping into the meat of their schedule here pretty soon with they got 3 of the last 4 weeks. You got Collins, Tomball, and Klein. So Magnolia needs to stack up as many wins as they can before they get to that end of the season gauntlet.
Yeah, and I don't have this one on the schedule, but Klein Collins is taking on they're taking on Magnolia West on a Saturday night. That has a trap game type of deal to it. I don't think they'll still lose, but the fact that they have to play on Saturday and then turn around and play Klein on Friday, probably not to Coach Mitchell's liking, but he's got to get them focused on that one.
Yeah. You got to take care of one at a time here and take care of what's in front of you, especially in this district, which is I think deeper than we thought this year. So the short turnaround is tough, but I think most coaches can make it work. It's if you don't want to have the Saturday to Thursday turnaround. That's the tough one. If you can, Saturday to Friday, you just basically don't have film on Saturday. The coaches are going to work on Sunday anyway, and the kids are going to come in Monday and practice like normal. So I think you're just missing a little bit of film. One less day of rest. But I think Collins I think they'll be fine.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Bridgeland. You probably were watching that game on your iPad while you're at the College Park game.
I was.
They didn't show much against Ridge Point. Granted, Ridge Point is shot up to number 2 in our rankings. They're pretty high in Dave Campbell State rankings. So it's a good team, but not to get only 3 points against them, and now you got an undefeated Langham Creek. Is Langham Creek in for a hurting here?
Yeah, I think so. I think Bridgeland, Langham Creek played on Saturday as well, so they got a short turnaround here. Bridgeland's fine. I mean, a lot of people are going to struggle with Ridge Point's front. That front 7 Ridge Point has is lethal. And so Bridgeland struggled a little bit. And, they had a couple touchdowns called back that might have turned things around, but, those penalties are part of the game. So I think if they bounced back from losing to Ridge Point last year pretty nicely, and I expect the Bears to bounce back. I think Cash Schwab's going to have a big game in this one.
Lobos have put up some points this year, but it hasn't been against the greatest quality squad.
Exactly. Bridgeland is going to be the best team they've played by several factors.
Well, they better get ready for it. And then Cy Woods snuck into the coaches poll at 20 this week. They're taking on a Waller team with TK Gaines out there. Tell me what you feel about this one.
Yeah, Jeremy Hickman's done a good job there at Cy Woods. They're off to a 3-0 start. They've taken care of business. They took care of Cy Creek last week. The thing about Woods is I think Waller might. Waller's 2-1. I think Waller might have played a better schedule. Just looking at it, I mean, they have the Conroe Grand Oaks. They lost by 8. That's the best team of the 6 games. They've played. So it'll be interesting to see how Woods, because this is a step up in competition. I think Waller is explosive on the offensive side of the ball, but defense still has a lot of questions. I don't know if Waller's going to be able to get a lot of stops defensively. That's where I think Woods has the edge. Darian Rogers, our thick king at quarterback, making things happen. Big guys. As a fellow big guy, I'd love to see a big guy at quarterback making it happen. So I think Darian Rogers has a big game. Give me the 212 boys and Coach Hickman.
While we get into 16-6A, is Waller's defense not up to par enough to even put him in the playoff conversation? Or are they not quite there yet? What do you think?
I don't think they're quite there yet.
Off?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the district's a little bit more wide open. I don't think there's a clear favorite. I mean, maybe Cy Springs, but Bridgeland. I think it's a little more. I think there's a lot of parity. So I think a win in this game, especially, is going to be big. But I would think a loss doesn't just eliminate you. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go into 19-6A. It's time to figure out what we have here as well. Coach Joseph still thinks there's 15 teams better than his Katy Tigers. I don't know if he really feels that way, but he refuses to vote for them, which is fine. They're taking on a Cinco Ranch team. It's they had those 2 losses against 2 good teams. They gave up a lot of points, but you look at what's going on in this district, they still look like the tops, right?
I think Katy still is a team. Both these teams got their first win last week. Seven Lakes is really struggling, so I don't think I don't make too much of Cinco beating Seven Lakes. I think that was pretty much 7 Lakes is probably 42-3. And then Katy, I expected Katy to get right, and they took it to Morton Ranch. So I think Katy's feeling good about things, and they tend to, Cinco Ranch beat them one year. I can't remember what year it was, but ever since Cinco Ranch beat them, it may have been the early 2000s when they upset Katy. Katy's putting the hurting on Cinco Ranch in a lot of these games in the past years, and 52-7 last year. The year before in 2023, they beat them 42-13. It always seems like Katy they haven't forgotten that loss, and they just put it on Cinco Ranch. So I kind of expect that again this week. I think Katy, Tremaine Hill, and that offense continues their feel good vibes after last week.
All right, Pato takes Tompkins. Tompkins took a tough overtime loss to Jordan last week.
That was a great game Saturday night.
It was a great game.
That's the game I was supposed to be at, and I was in Canada for a great reason, obviously.
Right.
But a little bit of me was like, man, I wish I would have been at that game Saturday night. That was a great football game that Jordan won in overtime. So,
the Falcons are trying to get to this bye week at 2-2 because it gets a lot easier in the back end. They only really have Katy and a little bit of May Creek there to deal with in the back end. That loss to Jordan, how much is that going to sting for them for Pato? I don't
know how much we know about Pato yet. They had their bye last week, so they've had 2 weeks to get ready for Tompkins. But they beat Decaney. You lose to Langham Creek by a point, and you beat Decaney. But I think Decaney's way down this year.
Right.
So I don't know if we know a lot about Pato. So Tompkins, they do have a nice win over Cy Ranch, but that hasn't exactly aged great. Tompkins has lost 2 in a row here. He lost to Richland and then lost last week to Jordan in a close one. So I think Tompkins gets right this week and gets themselves a win.
They get the legacy game. The Rhodes game is Jordan against Maid Creek. Your thoughts on that one? Your thoughts on Maid Creek? I know they got Cosi over there, but they put together some wins here.
Yeah,
they lost to Travis by 1.
That's not a bad loss considering Travis beat Jordan. So now Jordan didn't have Tanner West in that game,
or the defensive back.
So I think Maid Creek might be a playoff team, but I think Jordan's a little bit better. I think Jordan's still the second best team in Katy ISD. I'll take Jordan, but this will be a closer one than people think. I think Maid Creek's going to give them a run.
All right. Well, moved in 26A. I'm not going to highlight any games here, but do we know what's going on here? I mean, obviously they're going to start district play the week after this, but man, what do we know about this district right now? Do we know? Is anybody standing out? Do we know? I think all we know is that they're going to all get swept by 1968, maybe.
Yeah, I don't have a great read on it. I think Fulsheur's getting better. I expected them to, early growing pains under Stephen Hill, but you kind of saw, they gave Rich Point a game. Fulsheur gave Rich Point a better game than Bridgeland did.
Yeah, they did.
So, and they got right last night. They blew out Fort Bend Austin, which we kind of expected that to happen. I do think Fulsheur is improving. Like I think Fulsheur, at least for me, still enters as the favorite. Obviously, Strake with
John
Hebert. They obviously losing to the U.S. Trinity. That's not understandable, and they lost a close one to Lake Creek on the road. Strake will get right this week. They got Houston wisdom. They'll impart some wisdom on they'll be digging for wisdom in that game. And get a big win. So I think Fulsheur and Strake are the 2 teams to beat, and I think Foster's your 3 seed still. They played a tough schedule. Obviously, Foster they played the toughest schedule.
Yeah, they still got Barbers Hill this week. So
so they may be 1-3 going into district play, or 0-4 going into district play. But you look at it, I mean, Richmond, Randall, and Angleton. The 7 Lakes loss is the one that if you're a Foster fan, you're like, what the heck? How do we lose to 7 Lakes 7-0? So
that's a tough loss to take.
And then 4th place is George Ranch should get it, but I don't know. Elsick, I think Shea Rodriguez is a heck of a coach, so I wouldn't be surprised if Elsick found a way to get another win.
And that's kind of the goal right there. I mean, that should be the goal for all these 26A teams, is just to get in the postseason, because I don't know how much further do that whole Thanksgiving playing deal.
I think they're probably, all 4 playoff teams will probably be thinking, Thanksgiving will be for basketball.
I can dig it. All right. Well, here's Hightower and Travis. They both started off 2-0. They both took a beating last week. One of them ran into Landon Williams-Callis, and I don't know what you can do against that, especially when he's going to run for 300. The other team ran into a Port Arthur Memorial team that just put a beating on a game 50 on them. Your thoughts on this one? Because this feels like the battle for second.
Yeah, I think it's the battle for second. Hightower, we've said, is really young, inexperienced. This is a senior-laden team for Travis. I think this is a pick-em toss-up game. I'll lean to Travis because they had the best win, beating Katie Jordan. And then the win over May Creek has aged pretty nicely too. So,
and with Davis Kinney, they may have the best player on the field too. That guy's nasty on defense.
So I'll lean to Travis here in a close one. I think this is a nip and tuck pick and ball game, though. I wouldn't be shocked if Hightower won it, but I'll lean to Travis here.
I can take it. I had this other one on here just because I call it the Seymour game, wondering if he should probably have stayed over there to get a little bit more PT, but they're taking on Ridge Point.
Yeah, Brody Barty played most of the game for Ridge Point last week. I think Seymour came in
the last threw a touchdown in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, last drive of the game. So I don't know if that's permanent or what's going on if Barty's won the job. But last couple of games it's been Barty. So we'll see. I think Seymour's departure probably hurt Elkins more than it's helped Ridge Point. If being honest. So I think Ridge Point, the offense and the defense, offensive and defensive lines are just so good. If you can just keep Barty upright, he's going to – those receivers, DJ Darling and Balin George, are going to make plays. I would like to see Ridge Point, especially that big offensive line, get a little bit more efficient at running the football. The running game has been kind of fits and starts, so I would like to see a little bit more of that. That's the district you can work on stuff like that. I think Ridge Point's just far and away the best team in this district.
Absolutely. So. They got through their tough non-district.
Yeah, I don't know. Ridge Point's kind of like South Oak Cliff and Dallas. I don't know how much we're going to talk about them.
Exactly. Exactly. It's the comparison I was just about to make. I was like, we learned what we could those first three. Now we got to sit back and, we'll forget we even had a team called Ridge Point because we won't talk about it until November. All right, 22-6A. We got Shadow Creek going to Freedom Field taking on Manville. Man, we're kind of biding our time for that Shadow Creek Pearland game. But to talk 22-6A, you got to be, the ghost of Dobie was shook by Dawson. They went ahead and put a beating on them last week, and now we got Manville. Are they looking like a fourth place team here? And what can they show you in this game to give that to you?
Yeah, I think Manville offensively has been really good this year. They've put up points. Defense has been okay, but they Barbers Hill touched them up. The Barbers Hill game, they just dug themselves a huge hole early and then tried to come back out of it. But they just dug themselves too big of a hole. Shadow Creek, the last 2 weeks, they've dominated. They haven't really played strong competition. But that week one game against Summer Creek, Shadow Creek gave Summer Creek a good run in that game. So I think this Shadow Creek might be a little bit better overall than last year's ball club. And so I think they had the edge over Manville. I think Manville's fighting for the 3 seed behind Shadow Creek and Pearland.
Yeah, even Coach Harrison said he was kind of happy that they gave him a run like that because helps them to learn something. They don't have a Vandergrift setback. We skip over 23-6A because they're not playing, but Clear Falls against Deer Park. How about Kyden Barker last week? 375, 6 touchdown passes. Yeah. He moved right over from having Jonah Williams to throw to all the time. Now he's got a variety of receivers to get it to, and they're taking on Deer Park, and they're probably trying to battle out here to get in those top 2, 3, 4 spot there. Yeah,
this is be a really good football game. Deer Park's much better than their 1-2 record indicates. A 10-point loss to the Woodlands and a 4-point loss to arch rival LaPorte. Deer Park's a good ball club. Austin Flynn's done a good job there. Clear Falls, obviously, Kyden Barker had a monster game last week in that classic win over Cy Falls. Clear Falls off to a nice start. The Hightower loss isn't great, but Hightower's a solid team. So. I think on the road, I'm going to go with Deer Park in this one. I feel like Deer Park's a little more battle tested. I mean, that schedule, they nice win over Barbers Hill last week for Deer Park as well.
Yeah,
so I think they've run a little bit of a gauntlet, so I'll go with the Deer here.
I got you. All right, we'll move down to 5A. This is 10-5A Division I. There's a lot of bad records in here, but they're playing up. They're playing all over the place. Mm-hmm. Galena Park had a tough loss to Madison, but that was a good game. 42-35 was a solid game here. They're taking on Sterling, which was an early favorite in the preseason to be one of the playoff squads. Tell me how you feel like this is going to be now they're playing their own level here.
I think Sterling gets, the Galena Park loss to Madison was a little concerning. I think Sterling's a better team than Madison. I don't look at Sterling's record. They played Brenham and Texas City in non-district, so they have challenged themselves in non-district against quality football teams, and I think they'll be ready for Galena Park and that running game that Galena Park has. So give me the Sterling Raiders here.
So who's the battle then for them for 10-5A? Is it Westbury? Because Westbury's off 3-0 start. Madison obviously is 2-1, but you weren't too happy about you weren't too impressed by that win over Galena Park.
Yeah, I think Westbury, Sterling are probably the two teams to beat. Westbury's got a couple of outside of HISD wins. They beat Rosenberg, Terry, and Dulles. So that's kind of what you look for when especially you're trying to measure these HISD teams in 5A is how do they do against non-HISD competition. So that's what I think Westbury and Sterling are kind of the two teams to beat at the moment.
And they go at each other next week. All right, we're starting there's only a baby gauntlet for Richmond Randall, right? They play Marshall, then they play Iowa Colony.
Yeah.
Marshall's kind of struggling at scoring points here, so it makes me a little nervous in this game.
But Marshall, not a lot of data. Their week 2 game got rained out against Dallas Skyline, but the 2 games they've played against Friendswood and Crosby, they haven't looked great offensively. The defense has been solid, but offensively, they're still trying to find themselves. And they probably would have liked to have had that Skyline game just to get some more reps in.
Right.
Randall's offense is in midseason form. They're looking great. The defense got touched up a little bit last week by Fort Bend Travis. They gave up some points last week, but I think Coach Randall they'll get that fixed. And I just don't think Marshall's got enough firepower. So I think they'll slow Randall down a little bit, but I think eventually the dam breaks and Randall runs away with this one, kind of like last year.
Yeah, I feel so too, man. Just going through those highlights against Travis, he ran for over 320, but some of those runs, it's just like 2 little subtle cuts. It's not even major cuts. It's just a little flick of and he doesn't pull it back on the speed.
Mm-hmm.
Just does a little subtle cut, and he's going. That's 50, 60 yards. There's something else. Anyway, we got to move down to 11-4A Division I. Put Fern Washington up here because I want you to just talk about kind of this district as we get more into district play here. What you're learning from this district. I know Yates is the runaway favorite here. They're demolishing everybody, and then the Yates North Forest game is probably one I'm looking at, and that's a Saturday morning joint, so I can't even get to it. So,
man,
talk to me about this one.
Yeah, I mean, Fur, I think, took it on the chin the first 2 weeks of the season against non-HISD competition. This is Booker T. Booker T had a bye last week. This is a hard matchup to get my arms around. I kind of want to lean to Booker T here. I think on paper they're pretty evenly matched, and I'm going to go with Booker T. Washington just because they've had 2 weeks to get ready for this football game. Furs played the tougher out-of-district competition, but they got blown out in both games. Won their district opener last week, but just haven't super impressed me. So I'll go with Booker T with a lot of experience returning and the bye week.
And then they moved down to 12-4A Division I. Crawford played Belleville a little closer. They still ended up losing by 20.
Yeah, no Alvin Mosley in that football game. Probably hurt Crawford.
What was the reason for that? Injury?
Yeah. I'm assuming so. I'm assuming he was banged up. So, tough road trip to Hampshire-Fannett. I actually covered this game last year. It was a Saturday in Fort Bend last year, and Hampshire-Fannett handled a young Fort Bend Crawford team really easily. I think this is a much better Fort Bend Crawford team, much more equipped to take the road trip and handle that kind of thing. Hampshire-Fannett's pretty good. The Broussard kid at quarterback is really good. They have nice win over Hitchcock. I think it is competitive. I think it'll be a 2-score game, but I like Hampshire-Fannett. Unless, if Mosley's back and he has a big night, maybe Crawford can pull the upset here. But I think even with him, I still think Hampshire-Fannett's about 1 score better than Crawford at the moment.
Yeah, we got to get him back for district play for sure. All right, let's talk about Ocampo. Undefeated. They're taking on a Needville team that just got a solid win over Columbus. Obviously Columbus is a younger squad this year, but a win is a win, especially against a team that's running around with rings on their fingers. Tell me what you feel about this one.
This is a real measuring stick game, in my opinion, for Travis Reed's Ball Club at El Campo. They are undefeated at 3-0, but they really haven't played a super tough schedule. I mean, they beat Wharton, the rivalry game, and they beat a couple of bad, bigger schools. They actually beat a 6A. They beat Dulles last week, 58-0, I think. But, Dulles, all due respect to the Vikings, they're really struggling right now. The week before, they beat Bryan Rudder. So they pitched 2 straight shutouts. But Needville is a lot better competition. I think this is a pick 'em ball game. I think Needville with the momentum of last week's win gets
going to Ricebird land.
A close one, yeah.
Not the rice off them birds.
There you go. Yeah. Well, I don't know what a white rice bird really.
I don't know either. I hope I didn't say something inappropriate. I don't even know what a rice bird is.
I mean, a rice bird, I guess, is a bird who hangs out in the rice fields. But I like Needville in this one. Give me the Blue Jay. Battle of birds here. One real bird and one fictional bird.
All right. Well, we got some cats in the next one. We got some black cats. We got some tigers. And this is one I'm actually really looking forward to, especially if you look back in the past. Both of them been 1-point games. They've won 35-34, and then the year before it was a 7-6 game. Obviously, I'm leaning towards hopefully a 35-34 type score, but it's up in Sealy. Coach Clint's got stuff going on up there in Sealy since he's took back over, and obviously I just talked to Robert Jones this morning. He's ready to make that bus ride and do something up there.
Yeah, this is a great, couple of traditional powers in the Houston area who've won state championships in the past. A lot of great football players have come through these two towns. Obviously, Sealy, you got Eric Dickerson, and I'm gonna go back to a throwback here, a little Hartley Dykes from Bay City, former Oklahoma State great, a callback there. There's been other great players that have come through both of these communities. Hartley Dykes is the one that came to mind right away for Bay City, but Sealy, I think, has the best player in the game, Kane Killow, the quarterback.
Yeah,
he's just a dude. I think Bay City's athleticism, especially on the defensive side of the ball, is going to be a real tough challenge for Sealy. But I think that veteran experience that Sealy has gets it done. I think Sealy is a team. I think Waco La Vega is still the favorite in Region 3, 4A Division 2, but I think Sealy is right there. I mean, they're not far off. They were regional finalists last year, and I think they have a chance to do some damage. I like Sealy in another close competitive football game. I don't think it'll be 7-6. I think it'll be a little more high scoring than that.
Let's go the other route. These games mean a little bit more than some of the other teams, non-districts, because they get 5 of them. I mean, they're both playing in 16 districts, so they got more of these games to dissect the data, because you can't play around in them 5. When you only have 5 district games, you can't play around. You got to get wins right away. So
yes,
they're gonna definitely battle it out here. All right, let's talk about Hitchcock and Belleville. Belleville always plays somebody great every week. It seems like they're ready to battle every week. Grady
Rowe. Now, they don't have a lot of options because they run the slot T, and people aren't just lining up to play Belleville. It's one of those things at realignment where people Belleville's kind of like that girl at the dance that nobody wants to talk to. They're just kind of hanging out, and then
go get yourself some punch and be quiet.
Yeah, and then it's like at closing time. It's like okay, might as well. Coach Walker. But it's you look at it. They played Salina, Hitchcock. They played Fort Bend Crawford. They just play a brutal schedule, and so they're so physical and they just get after you. I think it's gonna be a really Hitchcock's a solid football team. Close loss to Hampshire Fernet on the road. And I think we may see a similar result this week. I think I like Belleville in a close one to get revenge for dropping this game last year.
Gotcha. And then the big 2A battle, the Tidehaven Ganado game. Your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so this is a rematch of the state 7-on-7 championship game.
Oh, okay.
Division 3. Tidehaven beat Ganado in that one. Ganado handled Tidehaven really easily last year. Tidehaven, they kind of, Ganado kind of bullied them a little bit, beat them 41-7. And that was kind of a turning point for Tidehaven. They made some personnel changes after that and kind of got things together. The roles are a little reversed this year. Tidehaven has all the experience. Cale Russell back at quarterback, the 4-year starter. They got my guy, Boogie Galvan, out there making plays. Ganado is a little younger this year, still very good. They're undefeated. They got a sophomore quarterback, Landon Arriaga, who's a really, really good player. I just think they're a little young. I think the senior leadership for Tidehaven is the key in this one. I like David Lucio's ball club to win. A really good matchup. If you're looking for a good small school game, and I know Ganado's a little ways out of the Houston area, a little further south there on 59 going towards Victoria. But this is going to be a really good small school football game. These two, Ganado's the defending state champs. They're ranked in the top 10 in 2A Division 1. And I believe Tidehaven this week, they may be the number 1 team in the state in 3A.
All right.
Let me check the state rankings came out today at Dade Campbell's, by the way. And
I saw that. Houston Chronicle jumped all over that.
Yeah. And so, yes, Tidehaven this week is the number 1 team in the state,
okay.
3A Division II. So you got a number 1 team in the Houston area there in Tidehaven. So,
and there's like 5 districts in 6A and 5A that have the week off, so your fans can head on out there. And see who else is playing.
This week 4 and week 6 are the 2 really big bye weeks. So this is one of the bigger bye weeks in the state.
Every time I think of Ganado, I think of that state championship game last year and the poor kicker that had missed so many field goals for them, and they had to. And then everybody's celebrating at the end, and this guy's about as depressed as can be. I was like, "You're going to get a ring." So, I don't want to talk about it.
Hey,
poor kid took it.
Listen, I say this in press boxes all the time at 2A games. 2A kickers, it's an adventure. Class 2A kicking game is an adventure. So it is what
it's like. Whoever comes out for it, we'll let you kick, man.
Yeah.
All right, let me know where you're stepping out.
No Houston games this week. The next 2 weeks, I won't be seeing any Houston games. So it'll be a couple weeks before I'm back in the Houston area. But Thursday night, I will be in Sanger, Texas, which is north of the DFW area. If you know DFW, you know where Denton is. It's about 15 minutes north of Denton. Gunner takes on Sanger. So we got the 3-time defending state champs in 3A Division II, Gunner, playing a good 4A Division II team in Sanger. Sanger's got a much improved team in 4A D2. You know the fun fact about Sanger last year? Sanger last year was 7-3.
Okay.
They lost 3 games in district play by a total of 4 points.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they're a good team.
That's brutal. Okay.
They missed the playoffs. They missed on the tiebreaker. Yeah.
Right.
But they're a good team. That's my Thursday game. Friday, I'll be in Mansfield for Colleyville Heritage and Mansfield Timberview. Really good 5A.
Should be another good game, right?
A couple of good playoff teams, type teams there in that district, tough district there. And then Saturday, I'm headed down to the Rio Grande Valley, South Texas, Laredo United and Weslaco, Saturday night down in the Valley. So little RGV 956 action for me. So.
All right, got a packed schedule. Be back on another flight.
Saturday and short flight though.
Good luck at DFW Airport. I'm sure.
I'm flying into Love Field this time. So
okay. All right. You'll be all right. You'll be all right.
So, Southwest Airlines, if you want to sponsor Inside High School Sports Podcast,
exactly.
Let's holler at your boys.
Definitely holler at Stepp. That dude flies more than some pilots, for crying out loud. All right. All right, Stepp. I appreciate it. Hey, next week is week 5, which, again, like I said, it depresses me because we'll be talking about a halfway mark, and we just started. But we still got a whole way to go.
Got to start brushing up on your basketball, Wizzy. It'll be basketball season before you know it, man.
Oh, you're right about that. And all the good basketball players are off at academy, so I really got to find some guys that can average 10 and 8.
There you go.
That's about all we got left. All right, Stepp. I'll see you next week, man. Have a good trip.
Later.